good.
Yes, that's what
Don't worry about that.
With you all on my second full day in the job with friends, colleagues, community leaders, and a whole lot of excitement about the chance to really demonstrate what's possible in Boston with partnerships across all of the government. We are going to get a chance to hear from many of these leaders, and so thank you for joining us. Today we are here for an issue on climate, racial, and economic justice, the expansion of fare free public transportation in Boston. Yesterday, during my first full day as mayor, I filed an appropriation order with the Boston City Council to allocate $8 million in federal funding. $8 million in federal funding to expand our fare-free bus program. I want to thank all those who have been working on this already and who have planted the seeds that have already begun to blossom. Of course, this builds on Mayor Janey's program to pilot the 28 bus as our very, very first free bus route in Boston, as well as the efforts of so many city workers. So I didn't want to miss anyone here because we have many representatives here from the Boston Transportation Department, Vineet Gupta, of course our Commissioner Brad Garrett, Matt Moran, Carla Tankel, and Kirsty Hostetter. Thank you so much for what you've been doing on this for a very long time. Starting early next year, we will extend the fare-free pilot from a 4-month program that began over this fall into a 2-year program to truly see what's possible. And we'll go from just 1 route to 3 routes. And let me tell you a little bit about what these routes are and what they represent. The 28 bus, as we've already seen, transforming lives, runs from Mattapan Square, up Blue Hill Ave, through Nubian Square, and onto Ruggles Station, one of the areas closest to one of the fastest growing job centers anywhere in the country at Longwood Medical Area. This passes through multiple education hubs, Madison Park and the O'Brien High School, Boston Latin, Roxbury Community College, Reggie Lewis Center, many houses of worship. I myself took the 28 bus from Mattapan Square to get to the historic South Baptist Church for a worship service over the summer. The 29 bus also runs from Mattapan Square and up Blue Hill Ave and ends at Jackson Square. This route runs past the Franklin Field Senior Apartments, the Doris Bunchy Apartments, and the 23 bus runs from right here in Ashmont to Dorchester Center and to Grove Hall, ending at Ruggles, connecting residents to resources along the way like the Dorchester YMCA, parks and playgrounds right around here, to the fresh food at the Grove Hall Stop and Shop and other stores in the Grove Hall Mecca, and the museums around Ruggles Station. Each of these routes travels through and along Blue Hill Ave, an important economic corridor that we've identified as a priority for improvements to increase transit reliability and boost ridership. And each of these bus lines serves a ridership that reflects Boston. More than 59% of riders on these 3 bus lines are low income. More than 96% of these bus lines, commuters, are people of color. So by taking this action, we truly will connect our communities and supercharge our recovery, putting these federal recovery funds to good use by supporting and investing in communities who have been hardest hit by this pandemic. And we know that it works. Fare-free bus has already shown that this is the best way to attract riders back to public transit. The 28 bus route now has the highest ridership in the MBTA system, back nearly at pre-pandemic levels, whereas the general bus and subway ridership is only at about a little over half of pre-pandemic weekday levels. Bostonians have already voted with their feet to show what works. So expanding this program to include the 23 and the 29 and extending it from 4 months to 24 months is an important first step in Boston's journey towards a brighter, more reliable transit future. We are easing congestion, we are increasing efficiency for bus riders and drivers alike, we are making transit more accessible, we're cleaning the air for all to breathe, and we're making our city more connected. So this program is an opportunity to gather momentum towards greater change and again to reshape what's possible in Boston. So I'm so excited to pass it on. We will start with our community advocates, Stuart Spina from the T-Riders Union, followed by Stacey Thompson from Livable Streets, And then I'm going to invite each one of my colleagues, if they wouldn't mind, to share a few words as well. Counselors, state representatives, advocates, and partners in this work. And I'll kick it off then, but we'll start with the person who took the people who took public transit to get here today.
Thank you for inviting me to join you at the rostrum this morning, Mayor. To keep my remarks, in the words of my old high school headmaster, concise and essential. Local bus fares are now payable with $1.70 cash, but just who conveniently has 17 dimes in their pocket? Many times I've observed people tendering $2 in notes, and what of that extra 30 cents? I guess just a little extra cream on top of the MBTA's coffers. No doubt many Route 23, 28, and 29 riders have been seeing that extra 30 cents slip away from them, now here, now there, day after day, week after week. Prepaid weekly and monthly passes are only viable if you have a steady source of income. Mayor Wu's proposal sets a gold standard for improving transit access, especially for those without automobiles and bicycles. We must once and for all dispel the notion that, principally through fare revenues, the MBTA could somehow become a profitable venture. If public transit here were able to be such, where's the Boston Elevated Railway Company? Oh, that's right, passed out of existence after the realities of World War II ridership and meeting that demand proved too much to guarantee dividends to private shareholders. We don't expect Dorchester High or the fire department to run a profit, and the T is no different. By investing public monies in a public service, we're laying a new cornerstone for Greater Boston's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Let us hold the new MBTA Board of Directors accountable for each and every one of their actions. And let's keep the momentum going. Let's unite and demand that the MBTA restore Sunday and daytime Saturday service to the Route 29 that was summarily discontinued over 30 years ago. And most importantly, let's never shy away from the fight for transit justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilors, from Livable Streets.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wu, and for the councilors and other elected folks here today. This is a particularly poignant moment for many of us because in 2018, I stood with then Councilor Wu in a blizzard in Nubian Square where we were releasing our Better Buses Getting Boston on Board report. And that report is so important because at the time, what we were saying somewhat controversially is that Boston had the power to improve bus service, that we did not need to wait on the state, we didn't need to wait on the T, that we could make better bus service happen in this city on our own. We could take charge of our streets. Many of the councilors standing behind here also supported that report, and 4 years later, we have the region's first center running bus lane, and we are expanding fare-free service. This is not pie in the sky. These are reasonable, achievable, affordable steps to improve transit service and make us again a national leader in transit. I am here to celebrate this amazing expansion of free bus service, but I also want to drive home that we need to dispel the myth that we need to choose between free service and great service. We can have both, and we are implementing both. Next year, riders of the 29 will be able to get on a free bus route without that hurdle of finding 17 dimes in their pocket and get on a center running bus lane to quickly get to their jobs where they are still going to be serving us, where people are still going to be picking up their kids from school. So this is the first step. I look forward to many, many more announcements as we expand and improve our transit service, and Boston again leads on this issue. Thank you so much.
Next up is the chair of the City Council's ARPA Committee. Let the record show that Councilor Flaherty does not have 5 cars and that he took the red line to get here today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In case there's any doubters out there, all right? All right. So thank you to Mayor Wu for inviting me to speak this morning. When I was appointed to the Council's chair of COVID Relief Recovery Committee, I knew we were going to be presented with a tremendous once-in-a-life opportunity to improve the lives of Bostonians through the $400 million plus in federal funds. Equity has been our top priority on the Boston City Council as we look to distribute these funds. The pandemic has impacted everyone differently, and it's made an already unequal city even further divided. We know what those gaps were. We know that they've been widened. Mayor Wu obviously knows firsthand, and she's attempting to address the inequality in Boston, and that's at the top of her priority list. But she had raised the idea of using some of the ARPA funds to make the 28 free and the 28 and the 29 bus lines free. I was on board right away. I knew the impacts that this program would have on families in the heart of our city, in Dorchester, Mattapan, and Roxbury. You often hear me say that we're an opportunity-rich city. We have the best colleges and universities in the world. We've got the best hospitals and network of community health centers in the world. We've got financial services. Life sciences are knocking on our door every day to expand their space. And of course, who can forget our creative economy? Our problem as a city is connecting folks to those opportunities, to those resources. And this will go a long way in changing people's lives. It will allow them to get to work. It will allow them to get to their doctor's appointments. It will allow them to get to school. Allow them to shop. And allow them to visit our great cultural institutions without the burden of having to scrounge around for tea fare. So that said, looking forward to working with our mayor and making this a reality, and then working with my council colleagues and the mayor to see whether or not we could expand this program, this idea, so that we can get more Bostonians moving forward. So I thank you again, and thank Mayor Wu, and committed to getting this before you at our next council meeting, which will be December 1st. So that's my pledge, to make sure that we continue to move this forward. So thank you for your vision, and look forward to working with you.
Next up, someone who has so ably steered the council as President Pro Tempore and a leading voice on climate justice and many other issues, City Councilor Madam Malley.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be in Dorchester on this incredibly gorgeous late fall day. I'm so excited to be here. And Mayor Wu, you are a visionary, and you are delivering 2 days after being sworn in on a major campaign promise that will have huge ramifications. It's not only about allowing better access. It's removing passenger cars from the road, which will then in turn lower greenhouse gas emissions from passenger vehicles. It's about having less wear and tear on the road. It's about getting people to work. It's about getting people to medical appointments. It's about equity. It's about so many things. And it truly is just the beginning. So I'm so delighted to be with each and every one of you. Fully support this. This will pass the council. We will get this done. This is just the beginning. And my only note, I guess, Mayor, is that we may have to change your Twitter handle from Woo Train to Woo Bus because of the great success of this day. Congratulations. Great to be with each and every one of you.
Next up, someone who's been a partner on issues of transit justice for a long time and represents this area that we are standing in and so many of the communities who will be served by these routes, City Councilor Andrea Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor Wu, of course, for your leadership and operating with a sense of urgency on the issue that truly is an equity issue. And the fact that you started with this sets the tone, so thank you very much. I also want to thank my council colleagues as well for their leadership and their work. And this will indeed get through the council. There are just some questions I had, but it will get indeed past the council, I'm sure of it, because it's necessary. And like Mayor Wu said earlier, it is an equity initiative. Most of the folks who are taking these buses and who we want to incentivize to get on these buses, they're low-income workers, but most importantly, they're residents of color who really want to see their government deliver really quickly for them, and you're doing just that. So thank you, Mayor Wu. Thank you again to the advocates, the activists who've been on the ground for a long time pushing for this, and thank you also to the employees of the team. Folks are cleaning up as we stand here. We have to acknowledge their essential workers. Thank you for that as well.
Excited to be working soon with our next speaker, City Councilor-elect Erin Murphy.
I live right down the street here. I'm here to listen and learn. I'm excited to get to work with my fellow colleagues and the Mayor Michelle Wu. I remember when my kids were in high school and they got the M7 pass, and that really mattered. So I do want to make sure that students and people going to work, my daughter just started her first job at the Elliott School in the North End, and she walks up here, Ashmont Street, to get on the train every day, and it's an expense, and we have to really make sure that the T is equitable and that people are able to use it, and we're getting people to work and to places they need to be. So I'm looking forward to the work ahead. So thank you very much.
Okay, I'm so excited. Our powerhouse steakhouse, amazing sisters in service have joined us on both ends of some of these routes as well. So we'll start with State Representative Brandy Cooper Oakley.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, and I just want to thank you for your leadership, your vision, and making this a reality. So often the stories go untold of why this matters. It sounds like a good headline, but we don't think about the families, we don't think about the employees, we don't think about the students who literally it is a struggle to pay for transit, and recognizing the importance of these routes. This is my district, the 12th Suffolk. All of the routes lead from the 12th Suffolk and go to other parts of the city, and this is truly a game changer for everyone who needs access and to be connected to our community, and I'm excited to be a partner, and thank you so very much, Madam Mayor.
Liz Miranda needs no introduction. She's been working on, I didn't see. Welcome Rep. Lizardo too. Now we're two. we roll in strong. Rep. Miranda has been leading on so many issues of justice across many different fields. Very proud that family justice is in the
Good morning, everyone. I want to echo all of my colleagues' sentiments this morning. I'm really proud that on day 2 that you put forth an issue that I believe is a racial justice issue. Growing up in the 5th Suffolk, where I now am the legislator, we dealt with a lot of environmental injustices, and so we know that transit justice work is not just about transportation, but it's also about EJ communities that have long suffered in the city. It is also a racial justice issue. I went to the John D. O'Brien. I'm a frequent rider. I don't own a car. I don't drive. And so it's really important for me, particularly with the 23 bus, which is one of the I think it's well attended or has high ridership, that we're ensuring that people that are coming through Roxbury and Dorchester, coming to Mattapan, going to Longwood, or wherever they're going for work or for school, can get there quickly, can get there safely. I have watched many times sitting on a bus where a young person or someone who doesn't have the means is kicked off the bus because they don't have the $2 or the $1.70 or the $1.25. It's increased over time, and it's not because of this is a headline, but what's really important is that we have people in our community that depend. It's life-saving work. So thank you, Mayor Wu. Thank you to the City Council. Thank you to my colleagues. And thank you to everybody that has pushed this transit justice agenda. A new day is among us. Thank you.
We're going to close out this formal speaking program with someone who, like so many of the speakers here, has been a fierce champion for equity and justice, but particularly has been leading on housing justice, which is just the other side of the transit and transportation justice coin. So really excited. Representative Lisa Lizardo.
Thank you so much. She's super busy. Thank you, Mayor Wu. When Mayor Wu was counseling me, she was already working really hard with the State House. And we partnered together in ways that she helped me present to the Chair of Ways and Means to get transportation revenue, including many services that would help us move towards free bus. We weren't able to get that through the Senate, but we got it through the House last session. And so I really look forward to helping from the state side, and I pledge to continue helping Mayor Wu from the state side to get more revenue and to get more support from the state side so that we can expand free bus across Boston more readily and also across the Commonwealth. All my other colleagues have said all the cool stuff.
Any questions for anyone up here? When we think about the impact of making changes to policies, there are a couple steps that we have to get over. One is to make sure that we can get the ball rolling and get the program started, find the funding to do that. But an equally big hurdle often is making sure our communities know and have access to the programs and services and opportunities that we're trying to create in the public sector. And so it was really important not just to do this for a series of a few months or even a year, but to follow the mold that Lawrence has already paved for us when they launched their free bus pilot for a length of 2 years, to give time for people to adjust their daily routines, to give time for small businesses to make important decisions about signing leases, and for employees seeking jobs to know that this wouldn't just be a 3-month or 6-month stint that they would then have to scramble to figure out another way. So we thought starting with a two-year period was the absolute baseline and foundation. And we will certainly be looking for partnerships at the State House and other levels to keep this going. But the goal is to very carefully invest in outreach, ensure that we are measuring and connecting with residents on the ground, and be able to present the results of that, show the numbers, show the proof that this works, to be able to then say we need the investments and the return on investments at a much broader scale.
Mayor, are there other lines that you're looking down the road? I think it was one of the city council talked about eventually we could expand this. Are there already some thoughts about where we can take this next?
Yeah, and earlier during the mayoral campaign, I had laid out my team had spent a lot of time putting together a white paper trying to demonstrate how 3 different routes could make a big difference. The 28 bus was one of them, the 116, and I think the 66 was another one. Those 2 other routes besides the 28 that we had laid out run through other cities and towns as well. And so this immediate step, it was quicker to coordinate when a route was entirely within the city of Boston's boundaries. But that is the next place that we desperately need to have regional coordination and partnership. Some of the routes, the 116, for example, and other routes that run through Chelsea, East Boston, serve our frontline essential workers, carry people to work who are saving lives and keeping our economy going every single day. And so that's one place where we will need to and are going to start convening those regional conversations as well.
Mayor, we talked yesterday in your meeting with the governor about this specific initiative and what's his reaction?
Yes, we did. We had a great conversation yesterday, and we are putting forward the funding through the city's, fingers crossed, the city council's control of the ARPA funds as a way to, again, show and create the proof that this deserves and requires larger investment. We will continue to have conversations. We also talk not just about fair accessibility, but reliability as well, and the need for Boston to move quickly on dedicated bus lanes throughout the city. And so to pledge continued support to make sure that the city has what we need to work more quickly on that front. There will be much more work ahead with the state, but it was a good foundation, a good starting point for the governor. So, in fact, the 28 bus wasn't, I wouldn't say it was an overestimate, because it ended up that the city got an extra month to make up for that afterwards. The numbers are based on ridership figures and a calculation of fare replacement for people coming on the bus. So basically the city is assuming the fares that otherwise would be coming off the backs and the budgets of our residents and workers. We have set aside this amount of funding based on the ridership numbers and the best estimates for how the 28 bus pilot has worked and the increase in ridership that has come from that. But again, we will be getting every bit of the value out of that. So if it turns out that we come in under budget for the 2 years, then perhaps there's a chance to extend that for a longer period, just as we've done with the 28 bus as well. Yeah, well, and I will invite, if Stacey wants, or Drew wants to say anything about that as well, but we particularly chose the 29 bus because the city has done so much work in creating that center dedicated bus lane. So to match the efficiency and reliability of improvements in service with the accessibility from removing financial barriers is the key to unlocking better service across the entire city. It speeds up that service with multiple angles, and so as we're thinking about larger redesign, those are all the levers that we have. Okay. Okay.
Yesterday, a judge dismissed the ACLU lawsuit. So, do you plan on resuming the removal of the tents on Madison Cats? And if so, when?
We are working diligently. I just had a call this morning with our team led by Dr. Monica Burrell, Dr. Desola Ujukutu, and Chief Sheila Dillon to figure out the most urgent steps that the city can take. The bottom line is that we need more low-threshold supportive housing across the board, and we have several sites and locations identified that could open up that capacity potentially very shortly. Our city outreach workers, the Public Health Commission, and street outreach team is on the ground every single day working with people who need treatment and access to supports and shelters and resources. We will continue that. We are continuing to ramp that up. It is not safe for people to be in tents on the street. This is what we see in the area near Melanie Pass and Mass Ave is a failure of systems. And so we're working every day to make sure that we can create more housing that is accessible and ensure that we're connecting people into that housing along with treatment and public health.
Are you going to resume the tent removal, or is that still on pause?
We are working every day to continue outreach so that people have access to support and treatment and services. When there are beds available, we are working diligently to get people into those beds and therefore to ensure that we can continue providing safety, health, and housing stability for everyone there.
Can I just do a quick Spanish? How this is going to help the Latin community?
Sí. El acceso de transporte público es la fundación de justicia en todas las maneras. Justicia racial, justicia económica, justicia climática. Entonces es muy importante en mis primeros días en esta nueva puesta de crear el ejemplo para progreso. Es un honor de estar con todos los líderes de la comunidad, de avanzar nuestra prioridad de una forma de eliminar las barreras para la comunidad, para cada residente, cada empleo, cada miembro de nuestras comunidades. Esto es un programa para la próxima 2 años de eliminar los permisos y costas de transporte público, y como el gobierno municipal necesitamos la colaboración con el nivel estatal y el Consejo Municipal para continuar implementar estos pasos de una futura de una ciudad para todos. Gracias.